Hi everyone, and welcome back to Shady Oaks Farm. So this video I'm doing today is going to be strictly a video for a select group of people. So a lot of us out there, when we're training our dogs and stuff, we use bumper boys, and it's a launching device for retriever dummies. And they went out of business many years ago, but you can't, if electronics go bad on them, you can't use the electronics anymore. So the only way to use them is to rewire them and use new electronics. Now, I use Sport Dog, but Sport Dog has since went out of business on selling the Sport Dog launchers and or the receivers and transmitters. But there's still other brands out there. Garmin makes a launcher, and also Dogtra makes one. So Tritronics, Garmin owns Tritronics, so. But you can still buy a launcher through the transmitter receiver through Garmin, and you can also buy one through Dogtra, and they work pretty much the same. I don't know about Garmin, but Tritronics used to be reversed. So when I say reverse, I'll show you here. The polarization on the motor that you're wiring up has to be reversed. But for the ones I use, Sport Dog, it's positive on positive, negative on negative. There's ways around that. You can reverse it on the motor, or I got Lily in my lap here. She wants to help out. The other way to do it is this: if you wire it up and you can just switch it. I use a grab it here. So I buy all my plugs that plug into the launchers. They use a normal RCA jack. I buy mine pre-molded, so you don't have to wire it. And then this is a 2-wire, so what you have to do, I don't know if I have one loose here or not. I do have one here. So here's what we're doing. We're rewiring these servos. They're 3-wire, and we're rewiring them to a 2-wire. So to make them work. So what you want to do, this little trigger mechanism up here, it will hit the trigger on the bumper buoy and release the bumper buoy and shoot the launcher off. The Lily's playing with my cord here. Don't bite my cord. Hey, give me my cord. And so anyway, so I buy these pre-molded. You can buy them, you can just buy the RCA jacks and buy a 2-wire and do it that way. Or you can buy these are 6 foot long. I just buy these already pre-molded with a 2-wire in them and wire the 2-wire up to it, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But I just want to make that statement clear that for folks who watch my videos out here, this is really for a select group of people who want to learn how to rewire their bumper buoys to a new electronic. Since I say the old electronics do not work, or if they break or whatever, then you're out of luck. You got bumper buoys sitting around, without being able to use them. So it's pretty easy. I'm going to do one here, one servo, and that's all you need to know how to do is one servo, and then you can do the other servos the same way. So let me turn the camera here. Lily's a little feisty this morning. Turn the camera around here, and I'll show you how to get started. You can't help. Yeah, you go down there and go play with Cody. Okay, so here's what the servo looks like in a bumper buoy. You got 4 screws here. And then you got the one main screw that holds your little trigger mechanism. So let me show you quickly how this thing works. And here's the only downfall of doing this. There is a downfall. There's a spring back here. This little mechanism right here, I don't know if you can see it or not. That gets pushed and it releases the trigger. So get the camera as close as I can here. So you have a trigger here. As anybody knows who uses bumper buoys, you pull the trigger back like so that's cocked. So you got your shell in there, your blank in there, close it up. So the way it works is this little trigger mechanism right here will push that and it will release it. That's how it works on the normal bumper buoy. So I'll hold the trigger, I don't like to dry fire it. So if I push this in like this, my trigger just got snapped. So let me load it again. Like so. I'm going to hook this up to my Sport Dog. back to my showing you how this trigger thing works. So the downfall, like I say, there is a downfall when you wire these. As I was showing you a while ago, you have this trigger, and there's a little spring back here, and that spring pushes back. Well, if you know anything about servos, servos have a 3-wire. There's the 3rd wire in there is a wire that gives a signal to the servo to bring it back to a neutral position. So if your servo goes forward like this, it will bring it back to a neutral position. Doing 2 wires will not do that. It just triggers the servo, and that's it. Well, the spring in here will push that back somewhat. Now, I've got some that I don't have to do anything. I'll show you here the difference. And then there's some that you have to, when you get ready to load it up again, you open this up, load your shell in there. I always take this little mechanism here that if this is pushed in at all, I just dry fired that like a dummy. If this is pushed in at all, it will put force on there and you can't cock it. So I always come in here and push it back, make sure this trigger is just a little bit away from there so you got a little bit of play in there. So if that makes sense. And then I'll go ahead and cock it, so it will cock. And then I will put my finger on here so I don't dry fire it. I got my remote control here. It's on 1 for the, I put the RCA jack in the number 1 position. So if I push this, so if you can listen quietly here, if I push this, whoops, got to turn the receiver on. Hold on. All right, let's try this again. So if I push this, I'm going to push the button here. If I push this, you heard it. I pulled the trigger back a little bit, so you heard that. So if you look at this in here, this is what I was showing you a while ago, or trying to tell you, explain to you a while ago. If you look at this trigger, if I push this out like so, it pushes that little trigger on the servo back a little bit, and you can just take your finger and push it back a little bit. So now you got a little space there. That spring's not strong enough to push that back. That's quite a bit of force there. Again, the 3rd wire does that for you, but since you're only wiring these up 2 wires, I don't know anything about circuit boards. There's a circuit board inside these servos, and if you know anything about rewiring a circuit board, you could probably wire it up so the circuit board work and return it back to neutral. But it doesn't really make a difference. It's not that hard. You go out there, you take your shell out, you push this back so it's back in a neutral position again, making sure there's no pressure on this trigger mechanism, and then load it back up like that and cock it. And so you're all set to go for the next one. So, instead of letting your bumper boys sit around, on the shelf and never be able to use them, it's better off to at least you can wire these servos up. And again, like I say, now some of them, the spring, I've got a box of springs. I've never tried it yet. I have a box of springs. I've thought about taking the little spring out in here and putting a stronger spring in there. But you don't want to go too strong because then it won't release the trigger. So there's a happy medium in there. But I have not tried that yet. It's not a big deal, like I say, to push that back, to make sure it's pushed back. I have one of my bumper boys, the one I've got wired up already. One of them always comes back to neutral, and the other one doesn't. So, like I say, it's not a big deal. So let's move on, and I'll show you how to wire these up. All right, so you got the 4 screws that hold the servo in there. So you got to open this up like so. Move this wire out of the way. I hope you can see this on the camera. I'm close enough. So you open this up. You loosen these screws up here. Always hold up. You need about 3 hands, but hold this up here. Loosen the screws up, and then loosen all 4 of them up until you get them all off of there. And then make sure you keep them somewhere and don't lose them. You can buy new ones, but it's better off just to make sure you put them somewhere you don't lose them. They're tiny. You got a little washer on them. So take these all off, and I'm going to turn this thing around and show you. Because I got this other one already, the screws off. I'm not going to go through taking the screws off. I don't think you need me to show you how to unscrew a screw. So once you get it off, you take the 4 screws off, and then your servo will pop out like so. So now there's my 4 screws I had in there. And it's got this little metal bracket that holds that servo in there. So once you get that off, you take a screwdriver and you take off the screw to get that trigger thing, little mechanism off. And that, again, that's a real tiny screw. save it. This thing pops off. Just pry something underneath there a little bit. There we go. So this thing pops off. You can see there's a little gear right there that this goes on. It's got a little spline on it. So, and I'll get to that later about how you set this thing up. So you got the spline on. Take this off, set it aside. Take your little silver mount off, set it aside. And now you got 4 screws in here that have to be taken out in order to get to the motor that we're going to rewire or resolder the motor. So let me take that apart. So get your little screwdriver again. Take these 4 screws out. And these are pretty long screws. I got a bunch of them extras I've had from old servos. Keep them around. If you ever have an old servo that breaks, keep a couple of these screws around because you never know if you lose one. You know, if you're working on something. I lost some the other day. I think my cat took them. But she likes to do that sometimes. Now be very careful. Kind of hard to show you this. To take these screws out. I don't use any power drivers on here to take these screws out and stuff. Everything's pretty sensitive. You can see how long these screws are. So they go all the way through that servo. So they're pretty long. Take your last one out. Like so. So I'll show you what these gears look like. I just popped this one open. That's what it looks like. If you pop these open and screw it up, you can get them back together, but be very careful. All right, so back to what I was talking about. I'm just going to show you. So I tested this real quick. I didn't hold it down, and it spun around, popped it open. So you got to be really careful. Better off to use a 9-volt battery, I guess. So I'm going to take these off. Get rid of my black wire. We don't need that. Cut the black wire. I'm going to clean these up a little bit. It'd be nice if I had a wire stripper for this thin of wire, but there we go. So take a little bit of that sheathing off. Same for the white. All right, so get my wire here, red to red, white to white. All right, got my shrink stuff around it. Take my wire from my controller, butt them up. I'm gonna twist them together like so. Get me a little bit of flux, put on there. All right, now we're going to solder it up. There you have it. There's the red one soldered. Get the white one soldered. Doesn't take much just to get that wire wrapped around there, just so it stays on there. There we go. Get my little piece of wire here, get some more flux. You can't really put too much flux on. It just melts with the heat anyway, so. But I find it spreads over the wire better if you do that way. I've done it without flux, but it's so much nicer when you put it on. All right, get my soldering iron. And that should do it. So, there you have it. So I got my red and my black on there, or white on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it down on a little wire there sticking up. Put my shrink tube over it. Whoops, pulled my motor apart again. Duh. Be careful. Be careful. You can pull this motor out. It won't hurt anything. So just to let you know, if you want to work with it better, I've done that before. You pull the motor out like that, and that way you keep this aside. I've done that many times and wired up that way, and that way you have more room. I'm gonna go ahead and heat that up. I'm just gonna take a little Bic lighter. Should work. Doesn't take much heat. We're not looking for a whole lot. That's good right there. So just a little Bic lighter. Now, I got a bigger piece on here. I'm going to shrink wrap the whole thing, like so, just to protect it, like that. So I'll put a bigger piece on there. I'm just going to heat that up real fast. That's good enough. So there you have it. Now, put the motor back in. So you don't have to take the motor out. I think it's easier to work with the motor out. Just make sure you hold the thing together when you take the motor out. But push it back in like so. There's a piece of foam on this right there that pushes up against the circuit board. So that keeps that spindle pushed up through here. So, all right. That grommet fits in there's a little square there, that grommet fits in that, so. Gotta maneuver that down in there and push that wire down in there, like so. I'm packing a lot of stuff in there, so. Get that grommet in there. Come on. Like so, there. I got that in there. Got that grommet in there. Now put your 4 screws back on. I do caddy corner just so it holds it together until I get the other 2 on. One there. Put one in the opposite corner, like that. Now, a little fine tuning you got to do when you put these on. So take this off. Got to take that off. Got to put your piece back on, your metal piece back on there, so it holds that. I won't put this back on yet. So this will hold the servo on your part down here. So put the servo back on like that. And then find the 4 screws I lost. So I need 3 hands here. Hold this part up. It's easier if you open this up and separate it like that. Again, I put these in caddy corner again, just so I get it down there and so it doesn't move. There's one. There's two. All right, got that back on. Now what we want to do is this trigger right there, that piece I'm talking about that releases the trigger. I put this on last and I put it on there so it's just up against that trigger, like so. And we could test it out here. So it's on there. I better put that screw on there. I don't want it to pop off of there. I don't think it will. We'll try it without it. So I got it on there. We're going to cock it. There it's cocked. Get my wire out of the way. We'll use some zip tie wrap things to move those wires around. So okay, now we're going to try it out though. So okay, so I got my fingers on there just to make sure. And you heard it click. Now, I saw that come back a little bit. We'll see if it came back enough. Yep, see? That one's got to see, I could click that again. Look at that. Well, yeah, that one will stay. That one came back by itself. That spring's strong enough in there. So again, push it. There it goes. If you don't, you can just push it back and make sure it comes back. Or this one's pushing it back, which is good. So I don't have to manually go in there and do it. I mean, you can make sure you can push it back with your fingernail right there, but it's just a safety precaution that you don't, that trigger doesn't slip when you're loading this up and, it fires one off in your face. So I always worry about that. So, but there you have it. So then we'll take some zips and we'll wire this up so the wire's not in the way. I'll put one up in here somewhere, and just make sure you want to make sure you get when you put the zips in there, the little tie wrap things, you want to make sure that if you switch these around, if you want one on both sides or whatever you want to do, I do them on opposite sides for doubles and stuff, but you want to make sure you got enough on there to allow the wire to be able to move and flop these around. So, and you can always cut the zips and retie it and redo it. So it's just what you want to do. But there you have it. So there I go. I got another one set up. I could either, if I wanted to, I could daisy chain these together. Here's a way you could do it, since different ways of training, but if I'm teaching doubles, I might shoot a single off of this one, one way, and a single off the other way, and I'd come back and have this one sitting right by it, and I'd shoot a double off and teach the dog a double that way. So that'd be the only case where I might daisy chain them together, so I'm teaching a double, so I'm shooting two singles off and I'm shooting a double off. But there you have it. You just changed bumper buoys, that were worthless sitting on your shelf in your garage somewhere. These things still fetch a good $1. If you don't have electronics on them, they still fetch a pretty good $1. If you do have electronics on it, electronics cost you about $229, I think, something like that, $244, for whether it's a Garmin or a Doctra or something like that. Find out which one you like best. I really like Sport Dog, but like I say, they discontinued them. I don't know why. I guess there wasn't a big demand for them, because you think about that. This is a very select group of people that own these. So there's probably, they can use these on the baskets too and stuff. If the bird baskets and stuff for launching birds and stuff when you're doing upland training and stuff. But for the most part, they're probably just not a big enough market for them. So it's sad that I hope everybody doesn't go out of business, and quit making them. I got one more. So, and you could, like I say, you can daisy chain them together. You can run longer wire if you wanted to. You don't have to have 6-foot wire. You can buy longer strands of wire. But there you have it. So that's how you wire up a bumper buoy. And hope it was clear enough. I know it's kind of cumbersome sometimes trying to go through these, and you're doing little intricate things, and something doesn't work right. But for those who are searching the YouTube channel looking for someone how they wire bumper buoys up to the current electronics, this is a video for you. Well, thanks a lot, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.